Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Single Mother by Choice. My name is Jackie. Today I've been tagged by Diana McNeil from Attached Mummy to do the controversial parenting tag. So before we get into it, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content. Let's go. All right, so let's get into the first topic, pro-life versus pro-choice. I am definitely someone who is pro-choice. I think it's up to any woman or any family to make that decision for themselves. However, when I was younger, I did go through a phase where I was definitely pro-life. And that came from my experience when I was 18 of having an abortion myself. So I met someone that I didn't know him very well, and we hooked up, and I made a bad choice, obviously, and I did get pregnant. I had the abortion, and afterwards, I just wasn't prepared for the ramifications emotionally. I was really, really destroyed. I just didn't know what it would feel like. Not that I was in pain or anything physically, but emotionally, I just didn't handle it well. I got so depressed, I was so angry, and I just didn't understand how people could make this choice because it was just so painful. And so I did go through a time where, I didn't even want to be around kids at all. It was just really hard for me. And actually, a friend of mine gave birth to her child around the same time I would have if I had remained pregnant. And that was just so hard to get through. And I don't know. It was just a tough time. And so for a long time, and that was actually part of the reason why I went vegetarian for a while. I was vegetarian for 7 years. Because I just couldn't imagine hurting another life. I couldn't imagine taking away another life. And so I just couldn't even fathom touching another or participating in murdering or killing another child. With that being said, as I've grown up obviously and matured and I've healed a bit, I can look at things from different angles. I'm not fueled by anger and sadness anymore. So I can see how if obviously a child is not going to survive, or if something is wrong with you or whatever, and it means, saving your life versus the child, I can see why some people make that choice, and it is their choice. It's a free country. It's a free, it's a free country for now, but women and families have that choice, and I support that. But for me at this time in my life where I am, I definitely wouldn't have one now, unless again medically deemed necessary. And so that's where I am on that. I'm definitely pro-choice. All right, on a lighter note, baby wearing. So baby wearing, I'm definitely all for it. It just makes sense to me. It just seems like a logical thing. Your child gets to feel comforted and safe, and if your child is comfortable and sleeping, then you have 2 hands free to do things. Or if you're living in a city where you have to go up and down stairs in terms of transportation, like subway or anything like that, it seems easier to get around. Again, I'm not a parent yet, but that's what it seems like. And I have friends and family who have used different baby slings and etc., and baby carriers, and they've really enjoyed it and they've liked it, and it just frees you up to do a lot more. You can wear your baby facing you or facing out when they're a little bit older, and everyone is happy. So as long as my future child is happy being in a sling or a baby carrier, then I will wear them, and I'm proud to do that. Okay, next topic is circumcision. I was for circumcision. And that was because I just thought, ew, like an uncircumcised penis just looks so strange to me. It's so foreign. But it is so foreign because, at least in the United States, it's not something that you encounter a lot. So, but now, having done some research and just talked to different people and families who have chosen not to circumcise, I just learned that it's all about learning proper hygiene. So as long as you know how to care for your infant son and clean properly around the forehead and the shaft, then you're not likely to have the child develop UTIs. And same thing as your child grows up and goes into, adolescence, just making sure like they do know how to care for their body properly. But right now, I don't plan on doing it. I also recall my friend having a son and having him circumcised, and then you hear just the bloody murder coming from that child. Like, they're just screaming and yelling. I mean, it's just doesn't seem like something I want to put my child through. And I know he won't remember it. If I do have a son, he won't remember it, but I don't want to remember that. I don't want to put my child through that. So no uncircumcision for sure. Adoption. I get asked all the time, because I do plan on becoming a single parent, why aren't you adopting? There are so many kids who need a good home. And, I kind of have been made to feel bad about it. And also being interested in the vegan movement, and I was vegan for a while, and I'm trying to be vegan again now. I'm working my way towards that again. But just looking at different people talking, it's just, you feel like, why am I bringing another life into the world when there's so many that just need homes and need love and need family? And I'm really not against adoption. In fact, I think it might be something I do want to pursue after I have a biological child. And that's something that was always in my plans. I mean, my original plan was to have a husband, but that's not happening anytime soon, as far as I can tell. I planned on having my own children biologically. I hate saying it like that. It sounds terrible. But I wanted to have biological children, but also adopt children, because I think that, of course, I would love my biological children as much as I would love any other child. I mean, that's just how I am, and I know a lot of people are. So I'm not against adoption, but I have this desire, like this really strong desire inside of me to have a biological child. So although I have been sort of made to feel bad about it at times, I am sticking strong and sticking to it. I will attempt to have a biological child first. Baby piercing. I got my ears pierced. I mean, you can't tell from here because I'm not wearing earrings right now, but one hole is higher than the other because I'm presuming, and just based on what my mom said, after I got my first earlobe pierced, I was screaming and yelling and, just not happy. So when they went to pierce this one, I moved and it just got pierced a little bit higher. So I'm on this with Diana. I feel like when my child is old enough, if they really want to have their ears pierced, I'll explain the process. And then if they still want to do it, fine. But it's just traumatic. And I think it's just more traumatic for me. I think it will be more traumatic for me. So, I just don't want to put them through that. So when they're older, if they want to do it, fine. But I don't want to basically, kind of selfishly, I don't want to put myself through watching my child cry and suffer. So yes, I'm piercing, but not baby piercing. Next is breast milk versus formula. And this one is a controversial thing, at least within my circle and people that I know that have had babies. Some of my friends have felt shamed because, in the United States, let me start with, in the United States, most people are not required, but financially, I guess, required to just go back to work after 4 to 6 weeks. If you're lucky, you get 12 weeks of paid leave. It depends where you work. But, let's say on average 6 weeks of paid leave. And that causes a lot of stress. I mean, as a new mom, I've seen a lot of my friends go through it, and I helped my friend when she first had her child. I supported her and I helped her with her son a lot, and so I know there are a lot of sleepless nights, and you're just trying to get your stuff together and trying to figure out a routine for this child, and it's very stressful. It's very exhausting to be a new mom. I can't imagine having to go back to work after 6 weeks and still trying to breastfeed. So I have to get up early, get my child ready, perhaps go to daycare, which gives me such anxiety, sending my kid to daycare, and then I have to go to work and I have to find a place to pump, which a lot of places, I've worked with people that have to go to some dirty closet or have to sit in some awkward room and try to breastfeed or breast pump. And that doesn't seem like something I want to do, which is why I have moved home, so that I can stay as long as possible, stay home with my child for at least the first year of their life, because I do want to breastfeed and I don't want to do it under these really stressful, exhausting circumstances. I want to be home with my child. I want to which brings me to the next point. I want to co-sleep. I want to do all of these things, and I can't do that if I have to go back to work. And so I don't blame women who are like, I can't get enough milk out of me to sustain my child, so I have to use breast milk. You shouldn't feel shamed by that. It's just in our current state, in this country, and we're not afforded that chance, which is really sad. It's really sad to me. So I do not shame or guilt any women who go to formula, because under certain circumstances, you're just so tired and stressed out that your body it makes it harder to do its job. So definitely I am for breast milk, but totally get it if that's not a possible thing for you to do. So again, with co-sleeping, I think co-sleeping is so important. I did it with my parents. I remember, I think I was maybe 8 or 9 when I completely stopped sleeping with them. I would, when around that age, go in and out if I felt like I was afraid or whatever. I would, or I fell asleep in their bed sometimes. And so I would sleep with them. But after a while, I was like, okay, peace, deuces, I'm out of here. And I went into my own room and had my own bed, and I was fine. So I definitely want to co-sleep with my child. I think it makes them feel safe. From what I know, both the mother and child sleep better, and it's just a really nice symbiotic relationship, and I want to have that with my child. So definitely yes to co-sleeping safely. Okay. Spanking. So I come from a Caribbean family, and I definitely was spanked at times. It wasn't on a regular basis. I could probably count on one hand how many times I recall being spanked. But I just, as I grew up, I just had a hard time communicating my feelings to people. So if I was upset or angry or sad or whatever it was, I just had a hard time communicating with people. And it wasn't until actually maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I had a roommate who really pushed me to express myself, because I would hold a lot of things in and not so when I held my feelings in, I would eventually just let it build up, and then have a freak out. Whereas she was someone who came from a home of communicators. They would sit down, and even if it was an argument, they still work things out. They would sit down, cry, laugh, whatever they need to do to get over a situation. And so she really pushed me to do that and helped me become a totally different person. I also work in a school, and so I on a daily basis have to interact and speak with kids, and I just know from my personal experience that being aggressive with words and just generally aggressive doesn't get you anywhere. You really have to like learn to speak to people. That's just a basic human skill. Because we all have to work together, right, on some form or another, in some way or another. And so communication is very important, and it's something that I've worked on over the years, and it's helped my relationships with everyone in my life, and it's helped me to communicate so much better with the kids that I work with. So I definitely plan on not spanking my child and just learning how to better communicate with them. And that doesn't mean that there won't be a consequence for bad behavior or behavior that is not desired, right? So it doesn't mean that the kid will get away with just doing things that I don't think is like appropriate. Or that's not safe. There definitely will be a consequence. I just don't think that consequence needs to be yelling, screaming, verbal abuse, or physical abuse. It doesn't have to be those things. So, no to spanking. Home versus public versus private versus charter schools. So my opinion on schools is that there are good schools and there are bad schools. It doesn't matter if they're public, private, or charter, or even homeschool. Like perhaps some people are not equipped to do that and shouldn't do that, or it's not good for a family. For me, I would prefer to homeschool my child. That's definitely the way that I would like to go, but realistically, I have to make money and I have to go back to work eventually. Even though I plan on staying home, hopefully 1 to 2 years, I do eventually have to go back to work, and that likely means that my child will have to go to school. And what's important for me is that they go to a school that is nurturing and encouraging and that gives them lots of opportunities to explore their interests. So that may be a great public school, that may be an awesome private school, or maybe a charter school, who knows? But that's my position on things. I think it's all about the community that is built there. It's about the leadership in the school. It's about the type of teachers that they hire. It's about all the opportunities that are offered to them there, at home, at school. It doesn't matter where it is. So that's a wishy-washy answer, but that's my answer. Vaccination. So I haven't done enough research to really take a firm position on this, but I definitely have always thought that even if I do choose to vaccinate my child, they will not be vaccinated in the first few years of their life. So likely they won't be vaccinated until maybe 3 or 4, like that won't, if I do that, it won't happen until much later. I don't believe that I just don't feel comfortable vaccinating an infant or even a toddler. I don't know. That's just, again, I have to do more research. If you have suggested readings for me, leave them down in the comments. I'd love to just find out a little bit more first before I say, yes, I believe this. So anyway, so that's a wishy-washy answer too, but that's just, I'm still figuring things out. So maybe I'll do another one of these as time goes on, and we'll see what happens if I change my mind on anything. Medication. So for me, I don't use medication unless I absolutely have to, and unless other natural alternatives have not worked. So if I have a cold or anything like that, I just try to get more rest. I try to stay hydrated. I try to up my vitamins, things like that. If I have cramps, I just power through it, although I really don't have bad cramps. So anyway, TMI. But I just try to power through that stuff unless it's really unbearable, and other things have not worked. So I think that's the same approach I'll take with my child. I think that if they're really, really sick in terms of having like a fever, definitely fever, they will be medicated, and we'll have to break that. Because that can be very dangerous for an infant especially. So, but for colds, common cold, things like that, I'm definitely going to use just natural alternatives to medication. And if they get worse or something else happens, then I'll use medication as needed. Cloth versus disposable. So this ties back into my reason for wanting to stay home. If I go back to work after 6 weeks of having a child, then I won't be able to cloth a diaper my child, and I'll likely have difficulty breastfeeding. I don't know, maybe some working moms out there have had a successful breastfeeding relationship while going back to work after 6 weeks or so. But part of the reason I want to stay home is so that I can co-sleep, I can breastfeed, I can cloth diaper. Because if I send my kid to daycare or even have my mom help me take care of my child, I can't ask them to keep up necessarily with cloth diapering. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. Maybe for an hour or two, but not for a 10-hour day or 12-hour day. It just doesn't seem like, I don't know. Maybe there are some daycares out there that do it or whatever, but it's a lot. And then keeping up with the laundry, it's a lot to do. So, and again, so this is why I'm saving up and trying to stay home to do all of these things and offer my child sort of like the best start that I can afford. So yes, on the cloth diapering. The cry it out method. Eesh. Again, it just, just the way that I'm going, that cried out method doesn't work with what I want my child to experience. So I believe if I'm breastfeeding and I'm sleeping with my child, then if they're close to me, or if I'm wearing them, if they're close to me, yes, they may have times where maybe they have colic or something is wrong. That's different. But on a regular basis, I'm just not going to let my kid cry in another room while I try to sleep. I don't know. And I know that some parents do it because, again, with the lifestyle that we have here, especially in the US, you have to go back to work, you have to send your kid possibly to daycare. They have to learn sometimes how to self-soothe because someone may not be always there to attend to their needs right away. But that's not the type of start that I'm going for my kid. And again, no judgment on parents who do it, but that's just not the route that I'm heading towards. So that's not the path I'm going down. So, but I understand why parents do it, but it's just not something that I want to put my kid through. I just think that if a child is crying, they don't know how to communicate. They don't use words yet. So that is their form of communication. So if they're crying, it's because they need to be comforted, they need to be held, maybe they need to eat, maybe they need just something. And so I'm not going to just let my kid cry it out. I rather have them in bed with me. I rather have them close to me, and then we can all sleep really well and feel comforted and safe. I don't need to have my kid in another room crying by themselves. It just doesn't, it wouldn't work for me. It sounds like a horrible thing. But anyway, so those are the 13 questions. That is the controversial parenting tag. And today I'm going to tag 3 YouTubers that I watch on the regular. So the first is Spiritual Tasha Mama. She already has 2 young boys. They're super adorable, super cute. And she does breastfeed to this day. She's still breastfeeding both of her sons, and she is currently pregnant again. So I really would want to hear some of her responses. I think I kind of know what she'd say, but I'd love to hear her responses. So I'm tagging you, Spiritual Tasha Mama. I'm also tagging Boston Girl 5560 because she's already been through this process. She has a daughter, and she's been through the process of using in vitro fertilization to become a mom. And she recently this week reached out and gave me a lot of great advice, and answered all of my questions, was super open, super nice. And I'm curious to hear what she has to say regarding some of these issues here in the controversial parenting tag. Hey everyone, also forgot to tag Jen Rivera Bell from Why Choose Vegan. She's currently pregnant, and I would love to hear what she has to say on a lot of these controversial parenting issues. So Jen, you're it. So if you have any comments or questions, make sure to leave them down below. I'm sure you have lots of opinions about what I had to say today. And don't forget to also subscribe for more weekly content from me. And I'll see you next time. Bye.